Welcome to the Sign and Back. My name is Tokika Uzuru, also known as Toki, and in today's video I will be doing a very serious video where I actually have to put a disclaimer at the beginning of the video saying that I am not a professional when it comes to what I'm about to talk about, though I did try to make sure that my research was thorough enough to where I feel comfortable talking about it. And I will use that as a disclaimer for this video. Specifically, I want to talk more about covens and why you should be wary of joining them specifically. Now, because of the fact that I'm a solitary witch, I just want to do my own research because I just love doing research on things, but I hate having to actually write down the information because I don't remember to do it half the time. If you do decide that you want to join a coven, you should be very wary of what coven you join. Mainly because the coven you want to join might actually be a cult and you would be none the wiser. Now, the first step into identifying whether the coven you want to join is a cult or not is knowing exactly what a cult is and what the purpose of said cult would be. Typically, it's a group controlled by a leader with a specific amount of rules. I know I'm being very vague, but this is exactly how it was explained to me, where the leader has all the control and no one would be able to check anything that they're saying. Everyone in said group believes that the leader is some sort of special person. They can be charismatic. They don't have to be conventionally attractive, apparently. They can just have an air about them that they seem way more important than everyone else is. And again, they have all of the control and the power in said group. Another way you can tell what a cult is by using Steve Hanson's BITE model, which is basically behavior, information, thought, and emotional control. I want you to count the amount of times I say control in this video. Basically, your entire being, physical, emotional, mental, and possibly spiritual if it's a religious cult, does not belong to you anymore. It belongs to the leader. It can be from the people that you are allowed to hang out with, the things that you are allowed to do, even down to the food that you are allowed to eat or how much you are allowed to sleep. Something specifically that you can tell from the start if you're trying to get information about said group that you believe is a cult is a phrase similar to, "Oh, the people on the outside don't know the full story of what goes on inside," or "they have a skewed view of our group." And that is an example of information control. Basically, you can't trust anyone on the outside about what goes on in this group because they're outsiders. They don't know the full story about it. Now, of course, with rules and things that you can and cannot do, they have to have some sort of way to enforce said rules, which talks more about peer control and peer pressure. Basically, one of the ways in which they make sure that everyone is doing what they're supposed to in the group is by creating this sense of distrust within the group. You are obligated to go ahead and make sure that you tell them to what would be the authoritative figure in this case. You could also be denied several different needs. Specifically, these types of groups like to deny things like food and sleep, because that definitely messes you up more mentally than pretty much anything else. There's the possibility of being shunned and outcast by what the group has classified as the only group of people who actually understand you. 2, any type of physical, corporal punishment that the leader sees fit to put you through. That's about the cleanest I can get with that one. Now, this entire time I've only been talking about more of the behavioral and informational control that happens within these cults. It's time to get more into the thought control and the little mind games that they try to pull, essentially, as well as the emotional control, because that definitely messes you up psychologically. So outside of the outsider versus insider mindset, or no one else knows the truth but the people in the group and or the group leader, there's possibly changing your entire identity. So not only behaviors, but like general mindset, even just down to a name change, saying that the name that you currently have does not fit you, which is way different than a person that believes that the name that they were given does not fit them and decide on their terms to change their name, saying that certain thoughts should not be thought up at all, and saying that they are bad thoughts, which honestly, again, is starting to sound more religious than it should be. We're basically saying a bunch of words that mean absolutely nothing, but everyone thinks is so insightful. Loaded language and buzzwords to take your attention away from the fact that it's empty words. Basically telling you exactly how you should think, what you should think on certain things, and not really telling you exactly the why, or allowing you to independently and or critical think, while also not giving you the time to be able to think independently or critically by giving you several different tasks that take up your brain's energy. Similarly, in the emotional control department, certain emotions are classified as bad emotions and that you shouldn't be feeling them, and any type of bad emotions that you are feeling is not the group's fault, is the individual's fault for not following everything that the leader has said to follow, regardless on whether you did or not. And then instilling fear by pretty much any way that they can instill fear into a person, using any type of information that they know about them specifically, blackmailing them is what I'm trying to say, using a bunch of guilt tripping, something like this is something that you need to do in order to be a better person or something like that, which again I do have to reiterate is completely different than saying that in a country where everyone is supposed to be free, there's people that are getting their freedom and rights taken away from them. We should probably do something about that. That's as far as I'm going to get with that one. Perhaps there's this pattern of overflow of the leader and or person in charge just bombarding you with different acts of their affection if you're doing what they asked you to, and then quick restriction of all of that so you're more likely to do as they asked you to. Because funnily enough, we as a social species desire to be loved. The way I said that makes me sound like a robot, man. And although you do end up hearing about a lot of religious cults that specifically use Christianity as a way to gain more members of the group, you can find cults pretty much in any type of religion and not specific to any type of religion. They're everywhere is what I'm trying to say. To wrap all of this up, you have to figure out if you do decide to join a coven, whether that coven would be the right fit for you. And if you have any type of instinct or gut feeling to stay away from it, you should probably listen to that. Probably as if my gut feeling didn't help me with staying out of a lot of trouble when I was younger. And the 2 times in which I didn't listen to it, I completely regretted it. Last but not least, specifically the people who do end up finding themselves weirdly in cults, you do end up getting caught in it a lot. Most of the time, these types of cults prey on the weak-minded or the weak-spirited and decide that that's the best way to recruit more members. But they will also find a way to crack even the hardest eggs just to get you to be a new recruit. At the end of the day, as I said before in my previous video where I was talking about being a solitary witch versus being in a coven of witches, you have to be very careful and very observant. And always remember There will always be a way out if you do end up finding yourself in a cult. If I remember to do so, I will try my best to put down resources that might be able to help people if they do end up finding themselves in that situation in the description box below. And that is all for today's video. I'm completely mentally drained. Physically, I'm wired. I believe I had too much caffeine today. Now it is time for the stereotypical YouTuber outro, where I, as a stereotypical YouTuber, would ask you to do the following. Please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell to be notified of whenever I post, and put any type of questions, comments, concerns, or ideas for future videos in the comment section below. Please remember that people could just end up in these situations even if they have this information, because the mind trying to understand itself is already a perplexing statement. And I have been Toki Uzuru, aka Toki, and this is Toki saying Toki out.